been well, I'll stop.
She is.
You can only record good stuff now. No swearing.
But I can say Donna is excellent because I keep interacting with her. She's the one who gets so promptly get back to her every email or request, which is really appreciated, Donna.
Well, Dr. Jain, it is my pleasure.
Yeah,
I'm glad you got the scope fund for your last paper. That was pretty awesome.
Yes. Thank you for all your help.
yeah, she is a gem. I completely echo that.
Yeah.
Can you see my I'm sharing so you can see it, right?
Yep. Yeah, you're just in your I think that like we can also see your there you I think we can see
I know
your
I have to swap out.
You're good. Yeah.
Yeah, mine is like 3 quick slides and
Okay.
we're good to go.
All right, make sure my coffee is fully stocked here.
Oh, I'm getting really jealous. I have no more coffee. There's 2 of you. Robin, you're a coffee drinker too, right? Or not?
Yes.
You are.
Definitely.
Go, you can say it too if you have your coffee.
I've already had 3 cups, so I think I have to cut myself off.
You're cutting yourself off, right? Richard, they've done something where like, okay, no, I can see it up top here, I think. Okay. So I can see when people are starting to join, right?
So we're in a practice session now, but
Yeah, you won't see that until you start the webinar.
You got it. I know it's 11:58, so.
We could start at any time.
Does anyone need to do anything else, or should we just like start letting people in?
I'm okay.
I'm good to go.
Everyone's good?
Yep,
Yeah.
I'm good.
Thanks, Richard.
Okay, we're gonna let people in now.
thank you, Richard.
I'm gonna mute myself.
Yeah, the participants are coming in. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our session. We're going to give it another minute or two before we get going, just to let people get in. All right. Well, I think we should get going. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our final Advancing Authorship webinar for this year, JoVE Going Beyond Video. Joining us today from JoVE will be Karam, Global Scientific Advisor, as well as Ron Myers, Director of Editorial. Tom will be providing an overview of JoVE and sharing information about the Encyclopedia of Experiments, and Ron will be focusing on the publishing process and highlighting JoVE's methods collection. For those who don't know, a methods collections are peer-reviewed videos, articles highlighting different techniques and their applications merged under a common scope. And we have our guest researchers from MSK talking. We have Dr. Fabio Vanoli, an assistant lab member, and Dr. Manu, Jain, an associate attending from the Department of Dermatology. Dr. Vanoli will be sharing his experience as a guest editor for Methods Collection, and Dr. Jain will cover her experience working with the video team and the benefits of sharing her research via this electronic media. I'll be adding a link to chat in our event, to our event announcement, which features these speakers' bios. So we have more detailed about these speakers in our announcements, which I will share again. I'd also like to recommend, or actually remind you, that to all attendees that don't hold your questions. So if you have a question, please use the Zoom Q&A and start adding those questions to it. Robin O'Hanlon, our Associate Librarian for User Services, will be our moderator for the Q&A discussion that will take place after the presentations. So after the session, also, we will be sending out a survey link, and we truly, truly appreciate if you could take a moment to provide your feedback. So without any more details, I'm going to say let's get started with our first speaker and welcome Tom. I'm just going to stop sharing my slides.
Thank you very much, Donna.
My pleasure.
Okay, so hopefully you can all see my screen here. Fantastic. Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to our JoVE webinar here today. It's an absolute honor and a privilege to be here. My name is Tom. I'm the Global Scientific Advisor here at JoVE, and my job today is just to run you through very briefly a PowerPoint overview of JoVE, the resources that we have to offer, and how we can hopefully integrate and use some of our JoVE videos for research and training purposes specifically. So for those of you who have not perhaps heard of JoVE previously, JoVE stands for the Journal of Visualized Experiments, and we are the world's first and leading producer of scientific video experiments, methods, and protocols. Essentially, in a very brief nutshell, JoVE is the ultimate solution for helping advance scientific research. We do this by allowing scientists and anyone interested to see high-end, intricate-level details of experiments, techniques, and methods through the power of video. Ultimately, by incorporating these videos into training, research pipelines, and research areas, we also try to help save people time, money, and increase productivity in the laboratory environment in general. Hopefully, by utilizing some of these techniques, we can enable scientists to understand and research more advanced techniques that they can incorporate into their pipelines, or use them as a great and powerful training tool to help onboard new lab members in certain techniques and methods that can save senior staff members time from having to show them on repeat many, many times over and over again. So the reason why JoVE first came to be is we want to help impact the reproducibility crisis. We want to make sure that we reduce the impact the reproducibility crisis has on the wider scientific community. As you can see here, we have a poll from the 2016 Nature Journal, which polled around 1,600 scientists, and it showed that there was a significant amount of people that deemed that there was a reproducibility crisis in science. So we, of course, use these videos to boost reproducibility and productivity in research. As you can see from a quote from one of the doctors, who is actually a director of In Vivo Resource Center at Biogen, they understood that the JoVE videos are great training tools and serve as a visual standard for operating procedures in their lab. And they also go through extensive details on specific pieces of equipment and instruments used, even such as which gauge needles to use on certain pieces of techniques and methods. So essentially, we want to make sure that all of our videos are easily reproducible. We have all information there necessary to hopefully replicate a certain technique as if it were someone in real life showing you step by step and guiding you through every process along the way. So, of course, at JoVE, we are not saying that we are doing completely away with text articles. We have what we call the JoVE Journal, where we publish high-end scientific experiments across 13 different scientific disciplines. Anytime that someone publishes with JoVE, they essentially have two publication formats. They have what we call the text article, which is the same as you'd find in any other scientific journal on the internet. But then, of course, we have the real-life video publication process, in which we produce a video that is expertly filmed and conveys every single step of the experiment or the method. As you can see on the left, we have a text article example showing us how to align a certain lab animal model organism under a microscope, how to position the metaphase spindle at 3 o'clock, hold it with a holding pipette, etc. Now, of course, this information is very important, but can also very easily be conveyed through the power of videos, especially when it comes to certain techniques and methods which require many terminology to actually understand and showcase to wider audiences. We believe video can really go a long way to impact people's view and understanding of certain high-end scientific techniques. So to give you a brief overview of what JoVE has and how we can really help showcase our content, we split the content of the website into two main areas. We have what we call the research side and the education side. The research side comprises of two areas. The first being the JoVE Video Journal, which is where the website first started. And here we publish high-end scientific experiments. We start from all the way from the beginning, being introduced to original researchers and authors of the technique, where they give us an introduction to the science behind the experiment and techniques we're about to witness. We then follow all the different steps in a chronological order, all the different methods, reagents, and materials used. And then towards the end, we are again reintroduced to original researchers and authors from the beginning of the video, and they guide us through the results section. So we have an entire experiment taking place in video format, which on average lasts around 10 minutes long. Now, the second part, which I believe of course, will be of great use to MSK, relates to the JoVE Encyclopedia of Experiments. This is a vast and rapidly growing collection of online specific videos showcasing individual high-end research techniques and methods. So the difference being in the JoVE Journal, where we focus on entire experiments, showcasing every single step and method along the way. And in Encyclopedia of Experiments, we really hone in and make sure we show individual techniques that can be used across a plethora of different techniques and experiments. Here we cover four main areas, which I will go on to show you into the next slides. And then on the second area, we have education, wherein we show high-end and basic techniques for any beginner lab member. So this is a great way for training and onboarding new lab members in fundamental techniques and even more complex high-end techniques that we believe they should have a firm grasp on, especially when going on to do more advanced and groundbreaking research at MSK. And this particularly relates to the JoVE Science Education Collection, that we call it, in the education section. So going back to the research side, I mentioned we have the Encyclopedia of Experiments, and at JoVE, we're always keeping up to date and adding new content and developments onto our website. Of course, we wouldn't be a very reputable science journal if you want to keeping up to date with the latest developments and trends in science. And we want to make sure that our subscribers have access to the latest videos and trends in science as soon as they are published on our website. So the Encyclopedia of Experiments have four areas. We have biology, where we focus on lab animal model organisms, anything from large animal models, leporine, bovine, porcine, rodent models, Drosophila, C. elegans, etc., focusing on in vitro, in vivo, and ex vivo research. Each one of these videos in Encyclopedia of Experiments, or I should say techniques, comprised of two separate videos, where we have the animation, where we showcase high-end high-end scientific animations, as well as an experimental video where we showcase the actual technique being performed in a lab. We then follow on with cancer research, where we focus on different cancer therapy areas. We then also have a collection called Biological Techniques, where we focus on gene editing and gene transfer techniques, and many other universal high-end experimental techniques. And then lastly, our newest collection is our immunology section. And this is an example of the educational training and onboarding of new lab members videos that we have available in JoVE Science Education. As you can see on the left, we have the different collections available, anything from advanced biology, basic biology, engineering, physics, etc. And again, a great way to showcase these videos as a training guide, to showcase the basics when it comes to handling certain pieces of equipment, reagents, and even health and safety and lab videos as well. So just to recap, before I pass it over to my colleague, Manu, who's the Director of Editorial, I want to just highlight some of the reasons why we believe JoVE can be a great, impactful resource. So first and foremost, to save money on lab costs, to use less resources by reproducing the experiment faster and less mistakes. Of course, in science, we always, understand that there will be mistakes. We will learn on our mistakes, and this is the way we achieve successful results. But where we can hopefully minimize these certain mistakes and make sure that the reproducibility is at its highest and most effectiveness, we want to make sure that these videos can really help utilize and expedite the process a bit quicker, and make sure that these experiments can be performed and executed as effectively and as efficiently as possible. Then we have new lab member preparedness, where we want to increase learning efficiency and decrease intervention from current staff. So to save some time, current staff time and money and resources on training and repeating new techniques over and over again, hopefully you can incorporate these videos as a great way to introduce new members to certain techniques that they'll be most commonly using in their research area, and get them up to speed very quickly, and again, hopefully saving time for other people having to repeatedly show certain beginning techniques. Then we have knowledge retention. We want to reduce knowledge loss with staffing changes and make sure that at MSK, all the researchers have a great foundation of base research knowledge. And then, of course, the access to the latest advances in science, around 150 plus video protocols published monthly in the JoVE journal. We're always updating new areas such as the JoVE Video Journal and JoVE Encyclopedia Experiments with new videos. We want to make sure, as I mentioned, that we keep up to date with the latest trends and developments in both research and education, and make sure that any new techniques can be easily viewed by all of our subscribers on our website. And then, of course, last but not least, we have the decreased training and travel costs to hopefully replace offsite training in many instances. The content can be easily shared between colleagues, reducing the need for inter-site travel, essentially being able to see how these techniques are being performed just through the power of video, as if it were someone in real life showcasing and guiding you step by step. So essentially, as a brief recap, we have these very powerful videos that can be used to introduce researchers and scientists to new techniques and areas that they hopefully incorporate into their pipelines and research areas, and also great powerful training resources through the Encyclopedia of Experiments and the JoVE Science Education collections, where we give the new lab members all the tools they need, hopefully through the power of video, to understand how to incorporate new techniques and methods in the lab for the first time. So that's it from myself. Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to my brief presentation. And I'll pass it over to my colleague, Ronald Myers, who is the Director of Editorial at JoVE, to talk about the editorial and publishing process. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Please share my screen here. Okay. Okay, so thanks again, Tom. So I will, like you said, I'm Ron Myers, the Director of Editorial here at JoVE. So the editorial department focuses on JoVE Journal. So you kind of, Tom kind of outlined the basics of the journal. So I can go into it in a bit more detail and talk about the publication process itself. So as Tom alluded to, kind of the main goal of JoVE Journal articles is increasing reproducibility, knowledge transfer, and this is all done through the publication of a methodological video. So also, as Tom alluded to, there's only so much you can describe in text. So here's an example of a text article. It's great, but it is lacking a lot of details, particularly with things like surgical procedures like we're looking at here. There's so many spatial, temporal details that really can't be described in the text. So that, having the video is almost as good as, kind of looking over someone's shoulder and watching them do the surgery. So that's the goal of our videos, to reproduce that experience of having an expert on the technique literally in front of you going through the protocol. So JoVE's, talk a little bit about our scope. So we did start off as a life science focused journal exclusively. So we have 13 different sections. You will see that most of them are life science. However, we have in recent years, we have moved on to more diverse topics, including some physical sciences, chemistry, engineering, which is applied physics, also behavior and environment. So we go through the publication process, and feel free to stop me if you have any questions, or we can certainly chat afterwards also. So there's two primary parts to the JoVE article, and that is the text manuscript and the subsequent video. So those are both published and indexed in all the scientific indexes, PubMed, SciFinder, Scopus. And here's a broad overview of the publication process. So let me just go through this in general terms, and then we'll go through each item to discuss in a bit more detail. So the first step from the author's perspective is submitting a text manuscript. Our peer review team will review that just like any other, it's just like any other external peer review. Once the manuscript is accepted, we have a team of PhD science writers. They would convert that manuscript into a video script. We would relay that video script to the authors for the day of filming. We would come to their lab, conduct the filming, which is a series of short interviews, and also an over the shoulder footage of the technique being performed. So we film that, and then it goes back to us for post-production, where we edit the video, do professional voiceovers, in some cases animations. So that's kind of the general overview, and I'll go into the individual sections here. Okay, so manuscript preparation. The manuscript is actually very similar to any other methodological paper, like a Nature Methods, Neuroscience Methods. And, we provide authors with the instructions. And it's similar with a couple exceptions. So the one being, the primary one being the protocol is a bit more detailed than a typical methodology paper. And, the reason for that is because we use this text to adapt into the video script. So we want it to be as detailed as possible. And so you can kind of see an example here. So it's very detailed, goes into all the different parameters, and it's set up in a stepwise fashion. So, the person could follow, they could in theory follow it from this text as well, but the video kind of corresponds to this. The other difference is the results. So we don't require novel results, although that's fine as well. Some of our papers do have novel results, but I would say the majority of authors will show either representative results, kind of a typical outcome of the assay, or in other cases, they may even reuse a figure from a previously published paper. They may have published a results-based paper where they use the methodology. So sometimes they'll just publish republish a previously used representative result. But aside from that, it's very similar to any other methodology paper. So authors will submit that, and that will bring us to the peer review. And the peer review is honestly pretty identical to any other journal. It's evaluated externally, external peer reviewers, which authors can select, or we can select the reviewers on your behalf. And, it's examined for scientific rigor, reproducibility, detail, they also assess the ability of it to be translated properly into a video. And we don't require novelty, as I was mentioning before, we don't require novel results. So that's not something that's evaluated by the peer reviewers. So that, if it is accepted through peer review, the manuscript will appear, immediately upon acceptance. It'll appear in PubMed, Web of Science, Scopus, all the indexing sites, and it will show something that looks like this, which video coming soon. So they'll publish the text first, and then we'll produce the video and add it here once it's complete. And so I'll talk a bit about that, the actual production of the video. So after the peer review is complete, we send the reviewed manuscript to our PhD scriptwriters. So they create a film script, which is dialogue that the authors would read during the interviews, and we would show this to the authors well before the day of filming, so they have ample opportunity to look through it. Certainly welcome to make modifications to it and let us know if there's any special requests. So, for example, if someone wants to, a lot of things are filmed through microscopes. So if someone wants to film through an ocular or some other different way, we'll talk about that in the beginning and ensure that all our technical details are worked out. And I can say our video team does have experience filming in many different environments, including surgical, animal and human, various animal facilities, tissue culture. So they comply with all the university's standards for sterility, etc. Okay, so we will then come and do the filming. So it's a 1-day filming on site, and it usually takes about 6 to 8 hours. And as you can see from this video, this picture here, it's kind of an over the shoulder. In most cases, it's an over the shoulder filming of the actual technique being done. And then there's also one or more interviews, usually with the PI in the beginning, and then sometimes there'll be multiple other interviews with the whoever's performing the experiments, usually a postdoc or a graduate student. And like I said, it is scripted, so there's no need to memorize the script, which is a relief to most people. Okay, so once the filming is complete, the video comes back to us, and we do our video team does the post-production, which includes editing the video, doing professional voiceovers, and prior to publishing the video, we'll show it to the authors, and they're welcome to make any suggestions, modifications. And after that, after it's approved, the video would be indexed in PubMed along with the text, and the authors would receive a 1080p copy of the video, so they can use that for any kind of academic purposes, training, conferences, sharing on academic websites. Okay, so that's about it for the publication process. So our next two speakers, so we're first going to start here with Manu Jain. So she published with us in the past, so she's going to go through her experience with the publication process. Okay. So Manu, I will start playing your video if you'd like in the background.
Sure. Thank you, Donna, for your kind introduction. Thank you, Tom and Ron, for setting the stage. So this was the first time that we published in a visual article, which is the JoVE article. And if you can go back, this is a video you're seeing, and this is about a new technology, which very few institutes, like MSK is one of the leaders, that we are using this confocal microscope and optical coherence tomography microscope And the issue, and this technique is really useful in clinics, but the problem is it lacks expertise worldwide because it's very new. People don't know how to acquire images and forget about how to read these images and make a diagnosis. So I've published in many journals, and those are only text only. And as Ron has said in the beginning that, okay, in the text, you can explain only that much, right? The more of the finer points is missing. And the reproducibility, even if you do the step-by-step protocol, you cannot you cannot see what the person is doing, And the best thing is you can also share your tips of in between, which we shared, because once you start imaging with these devices, which are very new. So it took me time to train my technician, at least 3 months. And now the technician who was in this video has left and I'm training a new one. So how it can help me is basically I can share this video with my new technician. I don't have to put those 3 months experience. And this is really useful for me. And here you see this device. This is called reflectance confocal microscopy, RCM. And RCM OCT is a combined device where we have combined 2 technologies, reflectance confocal microscopy technology with optical coherence tomography technology. And we use it for imaging skin lesions in patients at the bedside. We are using it in clinics every day. And as I have explained before, it's a very new device. People don't know how to acquire images. They see these bulky devices, and then they don't know what to do with this. And if the technician is acquiring images, it's very critical that they take good quality images that can be interpreted by an expert. If the image collection is not good, we cannot make a diagnosis. So having this kind of a visual journal was I think it's very useful for these kind of novel technologies, lacking expertise, and we can train. So here I have to say that our experience was great with the JoVE team. They were very, like the coordination between JoVE and our team. I would like to mention 2 folks here. Eucaline Harris, who was a technician who did the video. She almost spent the entire day. And Dr. Milan Rajadhaksha, who's actually the engineer behind this technology, he gave an interview and he was involved with this production with us. And we all, on behalf of all of them, I would say we found the team very, very nice to work with great team coordination. We scheduled, because this device is placed in clinics, right? It is not in a research lab or an ML facility. So we had to be also mindful about it should not interrupt our clinical workflow. So we gave dates, and we could coordinate with JoVE team about the dates. They were very flexible with the scheduling, and we finally found a day and time. Then the team could come because it was the entire day filming, and there was no clinical disruption during the flow. And this video, which we have created, I'm using it to train my residents, my fellows, and also I have a CME course because it's essential to train dermatologists and physicians in these techniques. I can use these JoVE videos for that training, which is great. And also reproducibility is very important, because across the board, all the people should try to use the same methodology so we can get the same result. And so in my view, I had a great experience. And I think there is no other journal, at least in my knowledge, that gives a detailed step-by-step procedure which can actually train. And obviously, as Tom said, that you don't have to travel distances to train, and that also saves money and time. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Manu. Greatly appreciated. So the next thing we'll move on to is Dr. Fabio Vanoli will be talking about his role as guest editor. So I will first say a few words about methods collections in general, and then Fabio can talk about his experience. So a methods collection is very similar to a special issue. So it includes, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a collection of JoVE videos. The JoVE videos themselves are the same as any other JoVE video. They're just this is just a way to organize them under an umbrella topic. So what we do in circumstances like this is we build a methods collection with a guest editor, and they would use their expertise and kind of help us recruit content to the collection and curate everything, make sure everything is high impact. And okay, so I will leave it to Fabio. If you want to discuss your methods collection experience?
Okay, thanks Ron and Donna, Robin, and all the other, that's Joe, for inviting me. Yeah, so I was just checking my email and I realized that it was 9 months ago now that someone from Joe sent me an email. And it's one of these emails that sometimes you overlook or you dismiss. But the reality is that I looked into, and indeed one of the editors proposed me to serve as a guest editor for one of these methods collections. So now my experience of my knowledge, let's say, of JoVE was based on, I never published with JoVE. I wrote several methods paper. For some reason, I never submitted to JoVE. But I know very well JoVE because, it's very well done. The methods, they're, as mentioned before, very detailed. The video, very instructive. So basically, the proposal here was just to serve, as I say, as a guest editor. The editor from JoVE proposed a topic based on my experience, based on my past publications. And then, after a brief chat with the editor, I proposed a different topics. And the reason is that at the moment I was working on something different. And of course, they were very open and they let me decide. So we came out with this title here. It's not really important, the title at this point, just because, it's general. But this is just in this slide here, you can see the front page of the methods collection with a small bio, some information from me, the title, and in the next slide, here is just a brief description that, again, is on the web page, and it helps whoever is interested in sending a manuscript to understand the topics. And again, it's not really important what's inside. I just highlighted a few sentences, and because as an example of how to present your interested topic. And you see in the first 5 sentences, it's just a brief introduction, very general, of the topic that I decided to propose. And then highlighted or underlined, there are a few, again, sentences that stress the important points of the methods. So in other words, whoever is interested in sending a paper in this for this methods collection should try to focus on these 3 elements, in vitro modeling, cell of origin, and organization. So basically, spatial organization. So basically, that was sort of the content of or let's say more than the content, the overview of the topic that I was interested in. Now, after we set up the website, it started the process. And Ron, if you can go to the next slide. So here is a brief summary of what is my role. As I mentioned, I wrote this small 250 proposal that has been reviewed by editor at JoVE. They agree with the topics, so then we move on. And then here it starts my involvement, direct involvement, that is inviting authors that would be interested. So now, these are, as you can imagine, this is the tricky and the difficult parts. So there are different strategies that have been suggested to follow. One was to send email to different people, even though I don't know, I don't personally know these people here, just to see if they are interested. Of course, you don't send random people. You just need to make a selection and to see who is working on certain topics. And you need to make some research. You need to, there are people that, of course, because, I work in the field from now since more than 10 years. So basically, that is the first part. What I found it more relevant, honestly, is the personal connection with potential authors. And indeed, the person that decided to send the manuscript for this methods collection are close former colleagues or close friends that I personally contacted. I just started to explaining. And then, you know, that's again, I think is the best way to proceed. Of course, my role was just to contact, to explain. And then once again, JoVE editor supported me. They explain, they contact directly the person that is interested. They give all the details that is necessary. And they, honestly, I have to say they've been very flexible with the timelines, with the topics, with the, you know, as long as it was in the close to what I proposed it, they were open to different methods. And at this point, if the abstract fit with the collection scope, as I was just saying, JoVE will invite the author to submit a manuscript for the collection. And then, as Ron mentioned, is a regular peer review process. The methods is sent out to the to reviewers. In this case, the guest editor and the highlighted is not involved in the peer review process. The role of the guest editor is just contact the authors, redirect to JoVE, and then in a way the job for the guest editor is done. And again, as Ron mentioned, once the paper is accepted, is published, and so on. So just one personal note from my experience with JoVE, it was really good. Everyone was really nice, and honestly, I never serve as a guest editor. I just review papers from time to time, but I never been involved with any editorial process. I have to say that so far it's been a nice experience. And you know, whoever is interested in the topic, not just in the topic, overall in this role, you should seriously consider it. It's a nice experience. And I'm done with my presentation.
All right. Thank you, Fabio. Appreciate it. Okay, so I will stop sharing my screen here.
Hey, thank you so much to all of our presenters, and we were so efficient with time. We have plenty of time for Q&A. So let me see, I'm going to look here. So we have the first question we have is, what do authors do if they keep updating and altering their protocol already published in JoVE? Do they replace the original article or protocol, submit another one for publication? So how does upgrading, adjusting an already published protocol, how is that typically addressed?
Yeah, I can address that. So in most cases, they would need to. Okay, so if it was just a minor change, you know, we could always do an erratum to the paper and do any kind of minor textual changes. But if it is, you know, if the method has evolved and it's significantly different, I think in most cases we would publish a second paper. So that is something that our users typically request as well. So in many cases, we have multiple versions of the same technique. So it might be a more updated version, or it might be a version that's in a different model organism, for example, mice versus rats. And then users would have, you know, they're looking for a specific topic, they would have several videos that are kind of similar, but not identical. And then they can look at all of them and, you know, decide which one's the best for them.
Great, thanks, Ron. So I've had some questions sent directly to me through the chat. So yeah, and just a reminder, if you have questions, please put them in the chat or the Q&A. Either one is fine. So once the manuscript has been published, how long does it take for the video to be uploaded typically?
It's usually about 2 months. So it would take us about 2 months to, you know, do the film production, and it can vary a little bit, but I would say that's about the average. Yeah.
And are the researchers notified once it's uploaded?
Yes, they'll be sent the link, and they'll be sent a file, a HD file of the video as well.
Great. So let's see, we had another question about playlists and how those work. Could you speak a little more to that?
I could answer that question.
Thanks, Jen.
Yep, my name's Jenna Ostrowski. I'm an account manager here at JoVE and have been working with Sloan Kettering and supporting the community since 2012. So playlists is something that focuses on relevant JoVE videos that are tailored to a specific topic, and they can be used in different ways. They can be used in the research setting for training and onboarding purposes. So that is something that can be a very practical lift for the people with training responsibilities. There are a couple of ways to create them. If you want to create one on your own, you definitely can, but what you first need to do is create a personal account at JoVE using your institution's email address. That will give you that pass-through authentication access to look at videos that are part of your institution's subscription. And at Sloan Kettering, you have access to all the content. So you just want to log in through a personal account and create a playlist, and then you can select videos either individually or you could do a bulk video upload. And then you can also share that playlist out with individuals in a lab or colleagues. If you have any teaching responsibilities or training responsibilities and you use an LMS, the content can be integrated into your LMS. The other way that you can get a playlist created is to send a list of topics or a syllabi directly to JoVE, and we can have a bespoke playlist created specifically to what it is that you are looking for, either mapped to a syllabi, mapped to a listed training topics, just as an example. And then we do have some standard playlists as well. So hopefully that answers that question.
Thanks so much, Jen. Let's see. So it looks like we have a question from one of our wonderful interlibrary loan librarians at MSK. So is the video portion of the JoVE article generally available without a subscription, or is it subscription-based access generally?
Yeah, I can answer that question as well. It is subscription-based access. The video itself can't be downloaded, so it's not possible to share it out through ILL.
Okay, great. Let's see. So looking at some other questions I've received in the chat, is there an opportunity to partner like junior researchers with more senior research as guest editors on a method section?
Yes, so that is possible. Sometimes a graduate student or a postdoc will reach out to us and want to be a guest editor, and that's fine. We just will, in most cases, require their PI to be a co-guest editor. So in many cases, there are co-guest editors like between 2 and 4 in cases like that. So yes, that's possible.
Great. Let's see. Just looking through. I think these are all the questions we've gotten from our audience. So I guess I can turn it back over to Donna to wrap up.
Well, that was great. Thank you so much to all our JoVE presenters and also our MSK researchers who came to share their experience about using JoVE. I think it's important. It's a lovely reminder, even for myself, of things that we could be doing and promoting within the institution, since we do have access to the full collection. I just want to thank everyone and for contributing their experience, their knowledge, and the information about JoVE. And I guess I also want to just thank everyone, and to start things off, wish everyone a happy holidays, because it's just around the corner. So we're able to give you a bit of time back. Once again, I'll just remind you that we would appreciate your feedback, and Robin's very good about sending out the survey for that. And then once we have the recording, she will send it to everyone who is registered for this session. So we'll send it out again. Thank you again so much.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you. Take care.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.